Hey campers, George here. Out fishing again, skunked again. So what do? You practice your knots. You're not catching any fish and you're changing your fly, your lure a lot. You need to be able to do that quickly, or make any changes you need to make when out fishing and you're not catching, like I never do. So I do that a lot. And what happens is you'll end up having to tie a lot of knots. So I have 3 knots that I use. I find them the easiest and the quickest to tie when I'm out there, and I need to do it quickly, and I know they're going to work. These are the ones I would normally use when I'm struggling with my fishing and I'm having to change my fly constantly, or I lose a fly and whatever reason I'm having to add flies or change things. These are the 3 knots that I like to use: quick, easy, and strong. Let's have a look at it. So here is the surgeon's knot, and typically used to tie 2 lines together. As a fly fisherman, it's typically used to maybe join some tippet to a tapered leader. Allows you to extend your leader with a different size tippet or the same size. You can use this knot for any size line. They don't have to match. So that's a handy thing to have. And of course, the main thing is it's pretty straightforward to do. So what I'm going to show you here is I have some black fly line and just dropped my green fly line. And what I'm going to show you, I'm using this because it just shows up so much better on the video, is I'm going to say my black fly line here is actually my tapered leader. Okay, and if you were a regular fisherman putting on, extending your leader, same thing. This would be your leader attached to your rod, or your tapered leader on your fly line, and this here is the tippet that you're extending. So what you're going to do is you're going to overlap them and give yourself plenty of room. I normally like about almost 6 inches, just because. And it depends on the size of your line. So what you're going to do is you just overlap them like that, and then all you're going to do is give it a little twist with your fingers and get a circle going on it, just like that. You can see there. Okay, and all I'm doing is creating a circle so that I can do a basic overhand knot. I'm bringing my fly line, my black fly line, which is my tapered leader or your regular leader, and I'm pulling through the tippet I'm adding to it, just like that. And what I'm going to do is do that 3 or 4 times. Just keep pulling it through. And I'm going to do it one more time. The smaller your line, I like to do just more loops. And you're going to land up with this. Hopefully you can see that. And let me get it focused here. Right on it there. And all you're going to do is pull on all 4 sides together. So make sure you grip all 4 sides. And you're just going to bring it in a little bit tighter. And then, as with any knot, you just want to lubricate it. You don't want to stress the line when pulling it tight. So I just wet it there with some spit. Yeah, and then I just pull it together. And hopefully it'll come together and look reasonably good. And you get that. And as you can see, I'm pulling pretty tight on this, and it's not going anywhere. And you land up with 2 tag ends here, which you're going to cut off. So you would just trim those off, and I'm going to use my clippers here just to trim them off. And you can trim them off nice and tight. Always a good thing to do, because you don't want any pieces sticking out, because when you cast, sometimes your line slides down itself, especially when fly fishing and you're as bad at casting as I am. you don't want anything sticking out on either side, because the line will catch on it and knot and all sorts of nasty things. So there you have it. The surgeon's knot. Very easy to tie, extremely strong, and like I said, the nice thing is you can use any two different size lines or the same size and it works great. Very quick and easy. If you practice your knots when you're out there fishing and you need to add some leader to your line, a very quick and easy way to do it, and it works great. So here I'm going to show you the non-slip loop knot, and this is the knot that you'd use to tie to a fly, a lure, or your hook, your bait hook, which allows the hook to move freely on your line. Most people like to use the clinch knot to tie a hook on, which works great. It's easy to do, that you can use as well. The problem with that is if you have really stiff line, a thicker line, it doesn't allow when you tie I'm just assuming that this is the eye of the hook, it goes on there really tight. And basically what happens is, as this goes with the water, your hook just follows your fly line or your regular line, and if it's thick, you don't get a lot of movement. The hook stays pretty solid on it. If you use a non-slip and you have a bit of a gap, and you have that gap in it, now you get all this extra free, easy motion, and it allows your lure or your fly to move the way it was designed to, and it doesn't get limited in its movement. So what you're going to do for the non-slip loop is, I'm using this once again as my hook eye, just so that you can actually see what I'm doing. Using fly line, by the way, does make it a lot easier to do. When you're using a really small fishing line, it takes a little longer, and you have to be a little bit more careful with it. First thing you're going to do is, from your butt end, you're just going to come out, your tag end here, come back a bit and do a simple overhand loop, just like this. And you're going to want to make sure you have enough off the end here. So you have that, and you're going to put this through your hook, come back through that hole, that loop you just made, come through it, pull it through, hold it together, and then you're going to wrap this tag end a couple of times around your line, depending on the size, again, how many you feel comfortable doing it with, that sort of thing. It does work. And then you're going to put it back through that loop again, just like that, and you're going to pull it tight. Now, before you do anything, this loop here that you've made here is how big your loop is going to be where your fly is. So if you want to tighten that down, you're going to have to move everything down a little bit closer to make that loop a little bit smaller. So you've pulled this through, you're going to pull it in, pull it on there. It looks ugly right now. Lubricate it once you get it fairly tight, and just pull it tight, just like that. And now you can see here I formed a loop with the tag end hanging off. Now it doesn't move closer to the hook, and it leaves you with that little loop. And what you're going to do is you're just going to cut off this little piece here. With these type of knots, you want to leave a little bit of a tag just for security. So let's just quickly do that. And you can see there, and there it is there. You can see it there. And the difference between this and the other knot I showed you that gives you the same non-slip loop, which was the perfection loop, the tag on that one is at 90 degrees. On this one, it's almost at a 45-degree angle. Does it make a difference? Not really. And it's a sturdy knot. And like I was showing you, now you have a loose flowing, easy movement on your fly, or your lure, or your bait hook. And it gives you a much better movement in the water. It allows your bait or whatever to move the way it was designed. Pretty easy to do, and it works great. So that is the non-slip loop knot. If I'm nymphing or something like that, and I want to add a second fly to my line, this is how I do it. And once again, I'm using this is my my regular leader, which would have a fly at the bottom, and I'd maybe have it on the bottom, bouncing off the bottom, a small little nymph. And then I want to, maybe a foot or so above it, I wanted to have a fly floating either on the surface or just below the surface, about halfway up from the other fly, depending on how the fish align. And this allows me to add that second fly. So I'd get myself some tippet right here, and I'm going to move up my regular tapered leader as far up as I want it, depending on the depth of water and where you want the fly to sit. I'm going to move up there, and I'm just going to have them next to each other here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a simple overhand loop with the line I want to attach, just like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass this through that loop 3 or 4 times, depending on how you feel, size of your line, the normal story, just like that. And you land up with that. Now you're only going to pull on the line that you've just added, and you're going to pull it so it gets fairly tight. Just maybe tighten it up a little bit, lubricate it, and then give it a good tug on both sides, not all 4, just on the tippet you've just added. And you want to give it a nice good tug, tighten it up nicely, and you land up with that. Okay, the nice thing about this is, if I decide I want to add a fly that needs to be floating, a dry fly floating on top, on this side of the leader is where my first nymph is, on the bottom. I'm bouncing it off the bottom, hopefully attracting fish there. And I've noticed that they're rising as well. Well, now what that allows me to do is I have 2 pieces sticking out here. I can trim this bottom going down that way off and tie a fly in here, which is going to sit on the water, my dry fly. Or if I decide to go halfway down and still use a wet fly, but maybe a little bit higher than off the bottom, I can trim this end and tie the fly on here facing down. So what you land up with, I'm going to say I'm putting it midway. I'm not using a dry fly, I'm just going to cut that piece off. Just like that. And it's still on there nice and solid. This one is facing down into what I call down into the water. So now I can take this, cut it off to the length I want, and put my fly on there, and now I have 2 flies. That's how I add a fly or a dropper to my line. Nice and simple, easy to use, works really well. So there you go, campers, some more spam for your fishing brain. Another 3 knots to consider when you're out there fishing. I really like these knots because they're quick and easy to do, and they work, they're strong enough, and they're not going to fail me. Until they do, I'll keep using them. So remember, like I said, any opportunity you get, practice your knots. The better you are at them, get yourself 3 good knots that you know you can use in any situation. quick, easy, that you're comfortable tying, that are strong and not going to fail you. If you practice, you can't go wrong when you're out there and it matters. Anyway, thanks for watching. Much appreciated. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe. You know the story. Pretty sure I'll be back with something else for your brain. Just saying. Bye.